Hi there. Barefoot walking has become increasingly popular in recent years. Barefoot walking can be walking in your bare feet or in minimalist footwear, which is increasingly available in shoe stores these days. Today, I want to share with you my top 10 tips for barefoot walking. So, if you're interested in getting started, you can do it safely and effectively and with confidence. Before you get started, go ahead and click on the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell to get notifications for my future videos. It's important for you to click that like button because that's going to help YouTube share my videos with more people. There are a lot of people out there who may be unaware that they could benefit from walking technique instruction, and by clicking the like button, you are going to potentially get these videos placed in front of more eyes that could benefit. My first tip is going to be begin indoors in your own home. If you're not already walking around barefoot or at least in socks in your own home on a regular basis, that's where you should get started rather than coming out and walking around on concrete or on trails where you're going to have an unpredictable environment and potential objects on there that could cause harm. So make sure to start walking with bare feet or with minimalist shoes in your own home in a controlled environment. And that's going to make sure that you get started as safely as possible. My next tip for barefoot walking is to consider using minimalist shoes rather than going purely barefoot, particularly if you're going to be walking outside. Because there can be a lot of dangerous things that you can step on. There can be sharp objects out there that are going to cut your skin. You could also come into contact with infected surfaces that could pass bacteria or fungal infections into your feet. So, walking with minimalist shoes is going to protect you from some of those hazards. Minimalist shoes are not going to have the significant rise or arch that you find on modern footwear, and that's going to make the feel of the minimalist shoes much closer to natural walking than walking around in most footwear. Research has shown also in older people that minimalist footwear was very helpful for them to get a better sense of position and connection to the ground when they move. And this was significantly helpful for their balance. So, minimalist footwear has a lot of research behind it, arguing that it could be very helpful for people. So, consider minimalist footwear rather than going purely barefoot. But if you are going to go barefoot, make sure to follow the rest of the tips in this video to make sure you do it safely and correctly. My next tip, when you begin barefoot walking outside, what I would recommend is start with very short bursts of walking outdoors, 10 or 15 minutes at a time, rather than trying to go for a 2 or 3 mile walk. If you do that too quickly, what's going to happen is you're going to come back with blisters on your feet and you're going to not enjoy the process and you're probably going to end up stopping or injuring yourself. So go for short periods at a time. If you're trying to really walk outdoors for extensive periods of time, you're going to need to build up calluses on the bottom of your feet. And then that's going to help you to not be as sensitive when you step on sharper or more jagged areas of surface when you're walking. Similar to normal walking, my next tip for barefoot or minimalist shoe walking is going to be to make sure you have completely vertical posture. For proper posture, make sure to keep your spine completely vertical, keep your head in a level position, so not tilted down and not tilted back. Keep your pelvis in a vertical position, not tilted forward or not tilted back. If your pelvis was a bowl of water, you wouldn't want to tip any water out the front of the bowl or any water out of the back of the bowl. So, completely vertical posture as you're moving. When we walk barefoot and you're walking outside in an uncontrolled environment, you may need to gaze down In my top 10 tips for normal walking, I mentioned keeping your eyes gazing forward. But when you're walking barefoot, you may need at times to use your eyes to glance downward at the ground, but do not tilt your head down. Just use your eyes to gaze downward. Head continuing to be vertical as you move. My next tip is going to be to consider shortening your stride when you're walking barefoot. In order to shorten the stride, what we're going to do is take our normal stride and we're going to shorten the swing phase by bringing the heel down quicker. This is going to give our stride a shorter length, but a quicker pace. So our cycle rate is going to be faster than in a normal gait. In order to do this, during the swing phase, instead of getting to the full knee extension of the rear leg and full knee extension of the forward leg before bringing the heel down, what we're going to do is shorten that swing phase and bring the heel down as soon as it's past the front of the body where it's cleared the ground. Once we've cleared the ground, we're just going to bring the heel down. In order to do that, we need to understand how we're bringing the heel down. It is a function of our core movement, and that's why you have to have some knowledge of your body movement and awareness in order to be able to shorten or lengthen your stride effectively. A lot of people talk about shortening the stride, but without explaining how you do that. So, how exactly we shorten the stride is as the leg clears, we're going to use our upper abdominal muscles on the side of the swing leg, and we're going to rotate forward on that side, and that's going to bring the heel down. Then we're going to change weight, initiate the next swing through, and as the foot clears, we're going to bring the foot down using the rotation of the other side of the torso, always on the side of the swing leg. It is such a small movement, you may not even notice it or feel it. It's just going to be almost like initiating the arm swing to bring the foot down. Because, in fact, it is that rotation of the upper abdominal muscles that causes the swing of your arms when you're walking. So, one of the things you can do to help think about cutting the stride short a little bit is think about initiating the arm swing earlier. So, when you're stepping with your right leg, bring your right arm forward sooner than you would otherwise. That's going to bring your torso forward, or really vice versa. Your torso is going to bring your arm forward, but you can think about your arm, and that's going to help bring your foot down because it's going to initiate the torso rotation. That is what is going to trigger the foot to lower. Now, in my opinion, shortening the stride is not essential unless you feel that your heel impact is heavy. When I'm walking normally with a normal stride, I don't feel any significant impact on my heel. But if you have a tendency towards a harder heel impact when you walk, then shortening that stride is going to help you correct that problem. And then you'll probably want to take that correction and extrapolate that to when you're walking in shoes also, because it's not good to have a heavy heel strike when you're walking in shoes, even if it's not quite as obvious because of the cushioning on the shoes. My next tip is going to be controlling the placement of your foot when we walk. And we're going to do that by being aware of the end of your leg swing. What we want to have is a leg swing ending in the air in front of the body, and then we do a controlled placement of the foot. Rather than walking where the leg swing ends abruptly as the heel hits the ground. That is a style of walking that a lot of people use that actually causes a lot of stress on the back and other parts of the body. And in fact, is probably one of the reasons that a lot of people are trying to switch to barefoot walking, because they believe that heel striking caused by modern footwear is causing a lot of problems. But it's not really the heel striking itself, it's the fact that a lot of people push into the heel instead of placing the heel like that. So what we're going to work on for our barefoot walking tip right now is placing the heel properly by being aware of the end of the leg swing here. That means keeping your posture vertical, not tipping forward. If you tip forward, that is when people tend to push into the heel, versus vertical posture, leg swing completes here, and then we rotate to place the heel in a nice, gentle fashion. So be aware of the end point of that leg swing at this point. You should feel the stop of the movement and then a controlled placement. If you do that, it's going to help you place more comfortably and with low impact on the ground. My next tip is going to be awareness of your foot placement when you're walking. When we're walking on flat ground, that is generally going to be a heel placement. When we're walking downhill barefoot, it's especially important that we be aware of how we use our body to place the foot correctly. What you don't want to do is extend your center of gravity out in front of the rear leg and then come down with a heavy heel impact. That's going to send a lot of stress reverberating up your entire body. What you want to do is find the balanced position where your center of gravity is over your standing leg and your swing leg is extended out in front of the body. Then we're going to lower in a controlled fashion, placing the heel with no impact, transfer weight, shift to the single leg balance position, lower, placing the heel with no impact, and we're going to continue walking in that manner. That's going to help you to move downhill with minimal to no impact on the heel, and also minimal to no impact stressing up the
When
rest of the
walking
body.
downstairs, instead of placing on the heel, we place initially on the ball of the foot and then gradually lower the heel. You can see my full video on the technique for walking downstairs linked above or in the description section of this video.
My next tip is going to be for people who have a very hard impact on their heel when they're walking. If you're going to try to switch to barefoot walking, you may at least initially want to not place so much on your heel, but lower your stance and place more on the midfoot, or even a little bit on the forefoot when you're walking. This is going to cause no stress on the foot when you're going, and it's going to cause less impact than if you're pushing into your heel. This is not necessary for people who have very good walking technique, but as I said, if you find yourself being a heavy heel striker or landing with a very hard or loud heel strike where you can really feel it, then lower your stance a little bit, flex the knees, and then you can place with the foot slightly out in front of you, placing more on the midfoot. Don't lean. Some people try to explain this by having you lean forward and fall into the midfoot strike using gravity. We never want to use gravity to pull us down. We want to use our core to control the placement of the foot at all times, even if we're midfoot placing. So I'm using a lower stance, so not extending the foot behind me so much, the rear leg behind me. Lower the stance, reach your leg forward without transferring the center of gravity forward so much, and then place in this manner. As you get better over time, you can begin to gradually raise the stance and place more correctly on your heel with the low impact. And follow the other tips in this video, particularly the being aware of the end of leg swing in order to do that. Then you'll be able to begin barefoot walking in a much safer manner. Another tip to pay close attention to when walking either barefoot or in shoes is making sure that you keep your feet facing straight forward when you walk. You don't want to have your feet turned out, which is very common. You don't want to have your feet turned in, that's very uncommon. So if you're walking with your feet out this way, you may not feel a significant impact on your heel when you're landing, when you're walking barefoot, but you're going to be collapsing your arch as your weight transfers over the inside of your foot with each step. And that is going to cause stress on all of the elements of your lower body and your back as you walk. So make sure to try and straighten your feet out before you walk if you're going to be walking barefoot. If you are a duck foot walking person where your feet are turned out like this, walking barefoot is probably not a good idea for you. You're better off walking in regular shoes with an arch support that's going to at least help prevent some of the collapse of the arch that's going to happen as your weight transfers over the inside of your foot. My final tip, particularly for older people who might have medical conditions like diabetes or neuropathy, where you don't have particularly good sensation on the bottoms of your feet, you may want to consider avoiding going barefoot. And potentially, if you do have interest in this, only use minimalist footwear. And that's going to help avoid damage to the bottom of your feet that you might not feel and could cause harmful sores or infection that, with poor circulation or poor sensation in your feet, could be really problematic. So make sure that you have very healthy feet with good circulation and good sensation before you even consider going outdoors walking barefoot. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and click on the bell to get notifications for my future videos. Thank you so much for watching.